Last week, we had a head start to the bill to stop payment of pension to ex-governors and their deputies, which was passed in the third reading by the Abia State House of Assembly. And today, the bill is long given assent by the governor, Alex Otti, and is taking immediate effect, if not even a retrospective effect. To that, we expect to see a replication of this development in other states, with every state inclusive. However, one of the biggest issues with public accountability in most federal systems is the payment of pensions to former public office holders, such as the governors, which is arguably undermining ethical standards in the public sector and impending socio-economic development. Well, a whole lot we're going to be looking at, critiquing all of this as regards how it should be in terms of stopping the passive or stopping the pensions of ex-governors and their deputies. With this, I say welcome to a fresh episode of Law and View. And my name is Philip Omo Viewpoint. Speaking today, I have a special guest, a barrister at law, and he is Bright Iluobi. Thanks for coming.
Thank you so much, Philip, for having me.
All right, let's look at the development that was kick-started in the State House of Assembly, though as an executive bill. But today we can say it has long been passed as given assent to by the government. What are your thoughts in this development?
Well, Philip, thankfully, that the bill you talked about was assented to, and that bill is now a law. And I think other states should follow suit, because the idea of paying governors and their deputies pension has now become a burden for states that are now very poor. You realize that states are now borrowing to even pay salary. I mean, some states are borrowing to pay salary. Some states are borrowing to execute capital projects, and some states are borrowing just to survive as a state. Not too long ago, the federal government gave handouts to states. So you find out that adding this burden to the already,
impoverished nature of the state's revenue
is immoral, is obnoxious, and is not something worth emulating. Other states should emulate Abia State and also repeal these laws. For instance, in 2016, the governor and deputy governor pension law was hurriedly passed by the then House of Assembly headed by Honorable Ajotu, if you recall.
Okay, of Edo State.
Of Edo State. And by that law, the outgone governor and his deputy ought to have gotten, I don't know if they have gotten it now, but they ought to have gotten houses. For the governor, worth about 200 million naira, and for the deputy, 100 million naira. And going by the current exchange rate, that would be about 2 billion naira for the governor today.
Wow.
And 1 billion naira for the deputy. I mean, we've heard our governor tell us severally that our state is broke. So imagine adding that kind of burden to our already impoverished states. And you find out that I am of the opinion that provision is also immoral, considering the fact that a large population of these states, they are living in abject poverty. Philip, I mean, you've gone out, you've seen how people survive out there. And would it be morally right for you to be amongst these poor people while you are living off their common patrimony? You are living in opulence. Of the common patrimony of these persons. Do you think it's morally right? I mean, it's not justifiable. As such, we have civil servants who have worked so hard for 35 years or more, and these civil servants are not able to. Sometimes they struggle to even put up accommodation that is worth about 10 million naira after serving for that long. And after just being a governor, enjoying all the benefits and perks of office for about 8 years, and you come and you live better than civil servants who have served longer, way longer and better than you. That is also not morally, justifiable.
I like the way you articulated your narrative, most especially when you went down memory lane like 7 years back when in Edo State over the pension rights bill, that was to be promoted by the State House of Assembly, that would have awarded those huge amount of money for the residential buildings of the then outgoing governor and the deputy. Now, let's look at the need for the governor to have at that time, just apply wisdom to, cut off or stop the pensions completely. But a lot of persons expected him in that light, most especially as even the Edo civil society organizations, embarked on protests in the streets of Benin to make sure that that was stopped. And but what do you make of this development? Do you see the governor, in his wisdom, taking a replication of what transpired in Abia State?
Well, I'm of the opinion, my personal opinion, that the governor is highly cerebral. The governor is not greedy. I mean, our present governor appears not to be greedy. I mean, as much as I know, he presently lives in a rented apartment around off Okorotu, Jare, Benin. I mean, we know some governors that would become governor and within 3 months, they would build mansions in their village. They would build another mansion in Benin City and probably also build a mansion abroad. So I know our governor to be someone who is modest, and I would urge him to also sponsor a bill to the House of Assembly to repeal that law wherein governors who have benefited so much from the states would still want to live off the states when they leave office. Rather, such monies should be used to fix our bad roads. Such monies should be used to take care of civil servants. Such money should be used for the betterment and the improvements of the education sector in our states and for the benefits of the citizens of Edo State at large.
But well, you can agree with me that there is pressure at present, just as we are expected to be going to the polls shortly in September 21st. And of course, political parties have churned out their candidates, and they are expected to also fly with campaigns in April. So do you see the possibility of this panning out?
Now, we must understand that governance is about service. Governance is not meant for you to come to feast on our common patrimony. That's not what governance is about. And it is time for us to be having conversations like this to educate the populace on how and what governance should look like, so that we will continue to demand these changes from those in government to help us build a better society.
Okay. But you agree the campaigns are coming up shortly. It's already a distraction, as all eyes are on how to make sure that the party regains the victory come 21st, 2024 in the coming elections in Edo State. Or do you think something else can be done in terms of maybe having pressure groups or civil society organizations facilitating the process?
I'm of the opinion that, yes, it is true, the elections are around the corner, but I'm of the opinion that that's not going to be a distraction, for the governor, because the governor is not on the ballot. Now, the governor has just one vote. So it will be out of place for the governor to abandon his job and be on the streets wanting to force people to vote for his candidate. I do not think that the governor would think along that line. I mean, our governor is a refined gentleman, and he knows that he has to work until his last day in office. I'm aware that you would have heard of the recent slogan, finishing well. So the governor has to finish well by ensuring that he does the job that he's been elected to do and not abandon same because his party has a candidate, in the coming election.
Thank you. That was well articulated. In case you're just joining us, it's Law and you, and I've been speaking with Bright Iluobe on the subject of stopping, pension for ex-governors and their deputies. Abia State has taken the lead, and we expect that Edo State and even other states of the Federation will follow suit. But there seems to be some drawback because we look at the need for us to make sure that we revitalize the common patrimony of the people, most especially from the national flowing to the subnational. Now, I remember vividly some years back under the leadership of former President Muhammadu Buhari, where he was saying that about 13.8 billion naira will be used, to service the pension of ex-presidents, Olusegun Obasanjo, Jonathan, and even Atiku, and such like. So, don't you think this should also be, in the first place, even starting from the national?
Well, sometimes, even at home, sometimes the head might be preoccupied with other issues.
Exactly.
And we forget to handle basic issues. At that point, other members of the house will have to remind the head of, the need to attend to basic issues. The states have taken it upon themselves. Abia State in particular have taken it upon itself to repeal that law in their states. I'm sure that Edo State will follow suit. And by the time other states, fall into line, the federal government will have no choice than to also fall into line and repeal that law. I mean, 13.8 billion naira. And we have no road from Benin to Auchi. Would that money not be enough to fix that, that road that you are spending on individuals that are less than 0.1% of our population? I mean, we have over 2 million Nigerians.
Okay.
And a little over 5 persons are benefiting 13.8 billion. I mean, that is the height of irresponsibility.
Can we say that because of what we have at present, where we have executive powers and all that comes with that influence, can we say that maybe the people are at the mercy of the president or the governor to make sure that cost of governance is reduced in this regard of terminating such pension rights to ex-president and ex-governors and the deputies? Or do you think there can be a better way where groups can study?
Philip, your servants cannot be more powerful than you, right? These people ought to be our servants.
The president, for instance, the governor, for instance.
They are serving us.
Well, that's what is in the books, but in practice,
that's how it should be. That is because we have slept on our rights for too long. Philip, the percentage, the number of leaders we have presently, from the federal to the state to the local government, they are not up to 10% of our population. I mean, if 90% of the population decides to stand up to their rights and say we must get it right, Philip will get it right. That is the honest truth. So the reason why it appears as if these minute few are very powerful is because the majority have decided to sleep on their rights.
Exactly.
The day they wake up, things will be fine.
Okay. Let's look at the current National Assembly. A lot of persons have said that a lot needs to be done in terms of tackling that aspect. Now, you may mention the fact that, the citizens can agitate, can make sure such happens.
Absolutely.
How would they do that if their representatives fail to bring that to fusion? For instance, the lawmakers at the federal level. What can be done now that they seem to be sitting on their hands?
I just told you now that as citizens, we can do a lot. We have a right to lobby. Of course, we could lobby. We could go around issues like this. We could sponsor a bill to repeal that act of the National Assembly as citizens and lobby our lawmakers to pass that bill. We could also, it is our right, constitutional right, to call the attention of government to matters that affect us by, going out to protest en masse. These will draw the
attention. As long as the such protests are peaceful.
Peaceful protests.
Of course.
Within the ambit of the law.
Of course.
When I say protest, I don't mean riot.
No.
I mean peaceful protest.
Okay.
Just to draw the attention of government to issues like this and ensure that we are able to beat them into shape. Philip, without us, there's no government.
Exactly.
They need us to be there. And for that singular reason, when you have a child and your child is not listening to you, what do? You bring the child and you take care of the child. So we can also take care of these people legally. Again, there are also other, there are legal means. We could compel them as lawyers. We could bring actions in court to compel them to take an action there are several means through which we can beat these guys into shape and ensure that the right thing
at present, the National Assembly has been facing credibility issues. We had the issues of the padding of the 2024 budget and all of that. And there are some who also believe that, like you may mention of, making the lawmakers to lobby their way through to make sure that they are able to, pass the bill and make it a law. Now, a big setback could be at the point of lobbying in the National Assembly. You and I won't be there. And basically, if it's a bill that is not being promoted by the executive, what stops it from being killed? So how can the people tackle that when they see such clock in the wheel of progress in that direction?
Well, now, I mean, that's a very technical question.
Why otherwise they wait till the next election?
Yeah.
because,
that's an option.
Because there seems to be that there's nothing the people can do if their representatives fail to, pass it on.
That's an option for them.
Okay.
That's an option that they could explore.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Now, let's come back home. Let's look at the civil society organizations. Some have also said that there could be, a drive, in terms of the civil society organizations to take this up and sensitize the people, to make sure that they sponsor this through their representatives and constituents. But there seems to be some drag, some laid-back attitude by the citizenry. How do we correct this?
Now, quite frankly, I mean, I've been following the activities of the Edo Civil Society Organization, and in my opinion, I'll give them their, their flowers. They've been doing excellently well, but they can do more. I mean, private citizens can sponsor bills. So the Edo Civil Society Organization can come up with people-oriented bills.
Just like it did 7 years back.
Yes.
As a way of condemning that aspect of amending the pension rights, whereby, ex-governors and the deputies will be given such largesse.
Aside condemning, aside protesting, aside educating the citizens, they can sponsor bills. People-oriented bills.
Yeah, and make it push through.
And make it push through. By virtue of the fact that, I mean, these are civil societies organizations. They have the people with them. And with the people, you can achieve a lot. They can sponsor these bills and ensure and follow up and ensure that these bills, are, passed into law.
Okay. We've heard that judgments have been passed by the court, even by the apex court, condemning this act of giving pensions to ex-governors and their deputies, seeing it as immoral. We had that the previous week when we had one of your kind, in the forum. Now, what do you make of this? Because if a judgment has been passed in this fashion, does it not mean that such judgments can be implemented? Or are there issues with passing judgments and then implementing such judgments that way?
Okay, before I answer your question, let me just take you back to 2023.
Okay.
In 2023, the 2016 law was repealed, and another governor and deputy governor pension law was passed. Now, the details of that law up until this moment is shrouded in secrecy. Well, I mean, we've been getting feelers that that house have now included the speaker and the deputy speaker as beneficiaries of that law. That the speaker and deputy speaker, upon the end of their tenure, now gets pension. So that brings us back to where we are coming from. Is governance supposed to be a means of acquiring wealth or service to the people? I mean, that is, question for thought. And the people should also look out for, well, it's up to them to decide who they want to elect.
Okay. Talking about the implementation of court judgments, for instance.
Yes.
And making them laws.
Now,
or using that to sponsor the bills.
Now, yes, that is also doable. Now, there are procedures for the enforcement of the judgment of court. When you get a judgment of court and you get the judgment, you file it and you keep it somewhere. I mean, it is almost useless. Now, when you get such judgments of court, there are procedures to enforce that judgment, where you have an unwilling defendant or an unwilling party or a person who is unwilling to follow or to obey such judgments.
Yes. Are they sometimes Herculean to implement?
In all fairness, yes, sometimes it is difficult to implement. But
probably that's why we have been having drawbacks from the judgments that the social economy rights accountability projects have really gotten or procured, but yet to be implemented.
Now, I'll tell you that what is happening in Abia State today could be an offshoot of that judgment. And, you know, by our Nigerian system, I can assure you that in no time, other states will follow suit until it becomes the norm.
All right. Yes. Thank you so much for taking our time to be part of this.
Thank you.
And we hope to have an opportunity to have you here again to do justice to similar topics.
Thank you so much.
Well, we'll call it a close on to this edition of Law and You. We do the same time next week. Bye-bye.